Hamas has not been willing to do it. Now they're not even willing to sit and negotiate. They're still out there. They're still infecting Gaza. They're still torturing their own people. Their own people are the greatest victims of Hamas. So what's the choice? I mean, if Israel doesn't go in, if they just kind of retreat to the perimeter, we'll see another October 7th, maybe in a year, maybe less.
He served as the U.S. ambassador to Israel under President Trump and helped broker the historic Abraham Accords that reshaped the Middle East. From moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem to standing unapologetically for Israel's biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria, Ambassador David Friedman has been on the front lines of one of the most consequential policy shifts in modern American history. Today, Ambassador Friedman continues to be a leading voice for truth in the region through his One Jewish State podcast, and he joins us now. Ambassador, always great to see you. Hey, I guess the big story right now, Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, look, enough is enough. We're going to fully, at least reports are saying, that he is considering fully occupying Gaza, hopefully crushing Hamas once and for all and freeing those remaining 20 living hostages. David, do you think this is the time? Diplomacy has been tried again and again. Hamas doesn't want to play ball. Is this the time, perhaps, for Israel to ramp things up militarily and try to end this thing?
Eric, hi. Thanks for having me. And you answered your own question. I mean, they've tried and tried. I mean, these poor families are watching every day as these negotiations continue to fail. And of course, the hostage cause was dealt a terrible blow over the last couple of weeks when, Canada and France and the United Kingdom all indicated they would recognize a Palestinian state with no demands on Hamas. 27 Democratic senators voted to abandon any aid to Israel. So Hamas is watching this. And of course, they perceive themselves as winning. They feel no need to make any concessions. So, what are the prime minister's choices? Hamas is not going to surrender. I mean, from day one, surrender and give back the hostages was the prescription for the end of the war. From day one, Hamas has not been willing to do it. Now they're not even willing to sit and negotiate. They're still out there. They're still infecting Gaza. They're still torturing their own people. Their own people are the greatest victims of Hamas. So what's the choice? I mean, if Israel doesn't go in, if they just kind of retreat to the perimeter, we'll see another October 7th, maybe in a year, maybe less. So what choice does he have?
Yeah, so true. Great points all around. And I didn't see the Allies leaving the Nazis in control of Germany in the wake of World War II, needless to say. And by the way, folks, Ambassador Friedman is a warrior for truth on his X account. Be sure to follow him there and pick up his book, One Jewish State, in addition to checking out the podcast as well. David, on X, you've been a steady voice for truth day after day. In terms of this disinformation campaign, which is really sinister, accusing Israel of forcibly starving the people of Gaza. I don't think we've ever seen in the annals of modern warfare a nation actually feeding the enemy. I don't see, for instance, Russia feeding Ukraine right now, but that is the situation. Can you talk more about these false claims, why it's so troublesome, and how we can fight back?
Sure. Well, in the first instance, I mean, the allegations that Israel is intentionally starving people in Gaza, that they're committing a genocide, 100% false. Absolutely no evidence to support that. And in fact, the numbers belie that because, the population of Palestinians in Gaza has only gone up and up and up ever since Israel's been in control of that territory. Israel is not in the food distribution business, right? Their job is not to actually hand out food to every person who's starving. It's impossible. The soldiers do that. They're going to get shot if they do that. So it's been left to humanitarian organizations. The biggest one was the United Nations. Now, the United Nations just admitted in the last couple of days that more than 80% of the food they get from Israel. Israel does its job. They allow the food to enter into Gaza. 80% of the food that the UN gets, they don't distribute. Either it gets stolen or it gets hijacked by Hamas, or in some way it's used to extort the people. So, it's not pleasant. It's not a good thing to be living in Gaza right now. But let's please place the blame where it belongs. It's on the United Nations and it's on Hamas. There are even American-sponsored NGOs that are trying to do the work of the UN, and they're doing a good job, but it's not enough. But by all means, people who claim this is on Israel, they've got the facts completely wrong. Now, the other point you made about the misinformation. Look, just in the past week, you saw a front page picture in the New York Times of a poor, emaciated kid. Now, the implication was there that he's being starved. The truth is that came out was that he has a congenital disease which causes his problems. And the New York Times cut the picture in a way where off to the side of the picture was his sibling who was perfectly healthy, perfectly normal size and weight. So that was completely doctored. The New York Times then acknowledged it was doctored, but they put the retraction, in a way that maybe 1/1000th of the people that saw the picture could see it. More recently, Time Magazine has a front page picture of people in Gaza with holding dishes and pans, begging for food. Then we saw we saw how the picture was taken. It was all posed. It was all orchestrated. It was orchestrated by a Hamas photographer. You could see him taking the picture. Nobody was begging for food. These were all orchestrated shots. The world is going for it because they like the narrative. They like the narrative that Israel's a bad actor, but it's completely false.
It's truly sinister and truly false. And Ambassador, thank you so much for shining a light on this every day, cutting through the clutter. One other place where you're doing that is Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. We saw Speaker Mike Johnson there just a few days ago. Talk about the importance of Speaker Johnson's visit for Judea and Samaria and why that region is so important for Israel's continued survival.
Well, kudos to the speaker. He's the highest ranking American official ever. Well, it depends how you rank. I guess in the order of succession, he's the highest ranking, although Mike Pompeo made these visits when he was Secretary of State. Very, very important signal. Shows how Jews and Christians stand for biblical Israel. From a security perspective, you will not find a serious military expert, not just in Israel, but anywhere in the world, who thinks that Israel can give up Judea and Samaria and not subject itself to an existential risk. But for many of your listeners, and for someone like me who's a believer, this is biblical Israel. This is where you can go and retrace the steps of Joshua, the steps of Jesus, the steps of Samuel. You can relive the events of the Bible. You can recharge, if you will, your theological batteries, right? And if we give that up, if Israel gives that up, the Palestinians will do nothing other than destroy it. They will destroy the only opportunity in the world for people who believe in the Bible to come back and relive those events, to prove that it's not just a myth, that these stories are actual facts that actually occurred.
No doubt. Ambassador, well said. Last question. Can you talk a bit about how President Trump is really, and in working in tandem with Bibi Netanyahu, is really transforming the region? You were part of that transformation firsthand during President Trump's first term. Do you see better days ahead in President Trump's second term when it comes to the Middle East? Yeah, tough times now getting through the Gaza mess, but the Abraham Accords could be back on the table. It seems there are some exciting things on the horizon under President Trump's leadership.
Yeah, look, I'm so proud of the president. Known him a long time. He's an old friend. I see what he's doing now in his second term, and he has, I think, exceeded all expectations in terms of being a friend of Israel and someone who is in a position to deliver peace in the Middle East. He is doing an outstanding job. He gets it. Look, he learned a lot his first term. He totally gets, who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, who you can trust, who you can't believe. He is as schooled and as expert in Middle East politics, geopolitics, as any human being alive, and he's doing really an outstanding job. And I do think that as the relationship between America and Israel strengthens, as Israel, transforms not to just being a regional superpower, but really one of the world's superpowers and becomes I believe, America's most important partner, together, I believe they will expand the Abraham Accords in ways we probably could only have dreamed of 5-6 years ago.
Amen. Exciting times. Ambassador David Friedman, thank you so much, folks. He is a must follow on X. Check him out there. Also, the One Jewish State podcast and his great book, One Jewish State. Ambassador David Friedman, thanks as always. God bless, my friend. We'll see you again soon. Stakelbeck Tonight, my all-new nightly series on current events through a bold biblical lens. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.